Rolling up in blacked out cars, talking like they own the stars. Smiling for the camera flash, hands in your pocket, counting cash. Trust us this time, they'll stay. Same old trick in a brand new script. Waving papers, selling whole. Fine print line is a velvet roll. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Every problem, they've got plans. Step 1, take more from your hands. Step 2, pick a team to blame. Step 3, walk off with the game. Talking justice, talking care, till you ask, hey, why's my street bare? They built mansions on those streets, then called you cruel when you asked what it meant. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Raise your hand if you're tired of the show. Same old play in a thrift store coat. They talk like saints, vote like sharks, writing your life with invisible marks. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, yeah. The mask falls off when the cameras go dark. Blue suits, black hearts, with Dusty ain't
And we're live, everybody. Welcome to California Free Radio. We're live on my X feed at Netter Mike, Scott at TextFighter.7, our YouTube channel Outraged, Facebook groups across the ecosphere, LinkedIn. And I want to start off with a shout out to our theme song because that's kind of our theme tonight. Every 4 years, they know we're here. And every 2 years, we start complaining about elections, why people on the left have been, quote, stacking the deck, putting 13 men on the field, whatever metaphor you would like to use, continuously between elections. Tonight, we want to focus on some of the root causes that we see wrong with the election system. And for everyone out there, there's a lot of stories. I spent a bulk of my day on shows talking to reporters about things which make the news. But I want you to understand tonight, it's the things that don't make the news, the things that you don't see that are coming back to corrupt the elections in California. Before I get to introducing my co-hosts, and we're going to lead off with Kurt's stories here in just 1 second. Many of you heard about the really big helicopter, which came over dropping off ballots. And many of you point to the sky, and I spent a lot of time with political advocates today going, did you hear about the helicopter? It came down, it dropped off a bunch of ballots. And I go, that's weird. Last time it was a big semi-truck. And I've heard in November where they're going to be using Hummers with Newsom's face on the side. Seriously, What you see, what we talk about, isn't what's corrupting our elections. And Scott Piotr and Kurt English, my fabulous co-hosts, putting up with me every week. And thank you for sharing the show, by the way. A lot of the stories we're covering tonight are about what the news chooses to talk about, but I want to change the narrative. Gentlemen, let me hand it over to you for 1 second here.
Mike, you should tell us about your election in District 22 for the state senate.
District 22, thank you. I outperformed. I've got close to 70,000 votes. For those of you keeping track at home, more than enough to put me in the top two. More importantly, for those of you that are very into this, and most of you aren't, I've got about 48% of the vote in a district where there's only about 24% registered Republicans. And this week, no matter how hard they try, Steve Hilton's in the top two. With the exceptions of Assurance Commissioner, we have someone in every top two in every single state race. In Netter News today, we actually gave you the link where you could see the election results. But as we talked about last week, Kurt, I also want to make sure that you know what to read into those results, because I'm incredibly happy that Hilton's in the top two. Went to the big news conference yesterday. Fantastic. Went to his thing last Tuesday night. Talked to Steve a couple times over the last great days. It's great. But if we are going to win in November, and I'm doing this from my office to win, not thank you for running, look at the delegates you're getting. I'm doing this to win. We need to pay attention to what's happening in the election system. Back to you, Kurt.
All right. Well, election fraud is the big topic this week. The Department of Justice opened an investigation, 4 of them, to California and Los Angeles voter fraud. And those are clunking along. You might have some details on it, guys. But unfortunately, there have been a lot of very disturbing stories out of Los Angeles. One was posted by a user on X saying that her sister was a Democrat that voted for Hilton in Los Angeles, and they put their ballot in the mail on May 1st. And it still doesn't show having been received.
There's lots of that going around, but let's be clear on something here. We're going to get into that in a bit. There are ballots which have been received, ballots which haven't been counted. That includes mine, by the way. They can't seem to track it. I'll put that down.
They don't want to track it, Mike.
I'm sure they don't. But the votes which have been counted, Kurt, I'm going to hit each one of your stories with the same question. For the votes which have been counted, we need to verify that they are legit voters. Kurt, do you understand, and you're a lawyer, what the DOJ is actually suing California for?
Well, our incompetent Secretary of State is refusing to remove dead people from the voter rolls. That's one problem. The other thing, guys, is I have a technical background. And if you see a ballot drop of 20,000 in Los Angeles, and none of them are for Spencer Pratt when he had 30% on election day, I can tell you that is statistically impossible unless there's cheating. Statistically impossible. And I challenge any liberal to argue with me about that, or let's go. If you think you can prove, which I know you can't, it's statistically impossible. The odds are trillions and trillions to 1 against it. So, starting with the Branch brief, over 100 years, Supreme Court accepts social science statistics as evidence in courts and allows trial courts to accept them too. Any trial court that ignores that obvious evidence is suborning voter fraud.
Scott, chime in for 1 second because I want to jump in on what Kurt said from a different angle here.
Well, what I like is first of all, I see all these other people that are doing independent investigations, Benny Johnson, Nick Shirley, the list goes on. And they're finding example after example of example, like, the 26 people that are registered to vote at the porta potty in Skid Row. But, the bigger overall problem, which Mike, I know you're going to get into a little later, is that, if you were, first of all, they wait till election day, right? And they figure out how many votes they need to create out of thin air in order to cheat and win. Okay. That's the Democrat Party. That's the way they operate. And the problem is that if you have to create, let's say at this point, 250,000 statewide registered voters and fake ballots. Well, how are you going to know who to vote for? You got to pick somebody who hasn't voted yet, because it would really be an obvious scam if you submit 250,000 ballots and you find out 50,000 of them had already voted. So they create additional non-voter voters, right? They create voters out of thin air and various other things where they have in their pocket 250,000, 300, whatever the number is, voters that they know they can cast votes for, and they know that there's not going to be any conflicts for. And the fact is that there is no check and balance to figure out whether these voters are legit, whether they have a pulse, whether they're dead, whether they're U.S. citizens. The list goes on, and the DOJ wants to get the list because they want to check that.
And let's start with that basic fact, and I want to jump on this. Kurt, forget the 20,000 voters and those votes coming in. They've explained that was some BS, but let's start with something really basic.
I thought I'd scare you a little bit here and put Shirley Weber, our Secretary of State's picture on the screen.
Well, that's actually something I forgot to talk about.
Scott, that's evidence of what Rush Limbaugh once said, that politics is show business for ugly people.
I got to tell you, this fits the bill to at least a 9 or a 10.
Kurt,
there are even better pictures of her out there.
That's not possible.
I hope so, for her sake, Scott.
I've seen Shirley live, and yes, that does her justice.
Yes, and there she. Let's just say she has to buy 2 airplane tickets.
I was going to say she doesn't miss many meals.
But I'm not saying anything about her.
Hold on. And for those of you out there that think I'm making fun of her, yes, I am. There is certainly a person that Shirley Weber looks attractive next to who is in government, and that's Maxine Waters. Because Shirley Weber is literally 30 years younger than Maxine. But before I get off base here, Kurt, let me be clear what the DOJ is suing for.
Bonds even looks better.
Forget the rest of this. They're suing to see California's voter rolls to simply ensure that the people on the rolls are legit. California, which is not their right, is refusing to turn their rolls over to the DOJ under the guise that, well, you might get some Social Security numbers and driver's licenses.
Mike, the federal government issues Social Security numbers. They already know.
Hold on. Don't argue with your co-host, because I agree with you. What their argument is, which doesn't hold water, they may actually out some illegal aliens who aren't supposed to be on the voter rolls. It's a circular argument, Kurt. And here's what I ask everybody out there, and we're going to Rob Bonta, not Shirley Weber, Rob Bonta, our alleged attorney general, turn over the damn rolls.
Well, Mike, there's a bigger imperative. The state government cannot obstruct a federal investigation. They may not. So they could be prosecuted for obstruction of justice if they don't comply.
Hold on. Is this blame?
It's not likely to happen.
I have no idea what this person is talking about. Hi, Stephanie. Okay. Here is the crux of it. They are going to delay it as they do until the election's certified. Okay? Real simple. They are going to delay it until the election is certified. And when they delay it until the election is certified, we start all over again, forgetting about the voter registrations until the next election, and we complain about the same stuff. So, Kurt, they'll eventually maybe comply or not, but it's up to us, the people of California, to start ensuring that the votes which are being counted, forget how they're counting them, the ballots which are being issued are indeed to legit voters. And that is really, forgot to you. Here's a statistical abnormality for you, Kurt. Okay. Los Angeles, the city of LA, by any metric, has lost population the last 24 months. Is that fair, Kurt?
No, it's lost me, but it was a long time before that.
Okay, hold on. There is no metric that shows Los Angeles growing. Yet in the last 24 months, you could check with Grok, AI, the actual SOS, they have registered approximately 200,000 new voters. Oddly enough, Spencer Pratt lost by about 40,000. But wait, there's more. There is no metric on any earth that shows California growing by any metric with legal citizens. Yet, in the last 6 years, we have averaged something like, and you can look this up on the Secretary of State website, we've probably spawned about 3 million new voters. And the registration, the process for doing it is online. You do not show ID. We've done videos. You can skip the box as to your country of origin, where you're born, etc., and still register. It's supposed to be cured by the Board of Registers. Scott, who lives in Orange County, informs me Orange County doesn't. LA, and you can Google this, says we don't have the manpower to do that. And so we do not verify the online registrations. That's 1 out of 4 voters in California. Go to the Secretary of State website and look how the number, why did I pick 6 years? Scott, why did I pick 6 years?
Because that's when you started the recall.
Exactly. Thank you. A box of Snickers to you. So I can't virtually hand them to you, and I'd like.
I mean, I listen to when you talk to me.
Amazing. So, in the last 6 years since we started the recall, paying attention to elections, where California has lost population, the registrations have grown. That doesn't mean I moved, it's one for the other. They've grown more than the California population has grown by legal citizens. And 90% of the registrations are online. That's why the DOJ wants to see and verify those files. And nobody can really explain, nor are we asking or bombarding our alleged state officials with the fact that they need to turn them over. This is not something we can pick up once every 2 years. And I'm going to rant really hard about this. I've been talking to political advocates all day long. I don't give a rodent's posterior about the machines at this point. Mail-in ballots, we need to show ID when we vote. That's on the ballot. But I need to make sure that the ID which is being shown is an ID for a person which should be voting. And since an illegal alien, or any person, even if they're a legal alien who shouldn't be voting, can have an ID, if we don't stop the bad registrations, it is going to be very difficult to stop them from harvesting ballots. Gentlemen, and Scott and Kurt, How do you think
Yeah,
they know what ballots to bring down to Skid Row? I was telling a couple reporters today. Well, what do you know on Skid Row? I'm surprised how many people I did know are advocates down there. But the question is, how do they know when they go to Skid Row what ballots to bring? And don't tell me Democratic ballots. How do they know what ballots? Where do they get their leads from, as they say in sales? Scott?
Because some of them register the homeless people at their own homes or at fake addresses. They've registered them in advance.
yeah. It's
Let me
always convenient when those bogus ballots, get mailed to your own house. All you have to do is fill it out, sign it, and you're good to go.
let's go into some numbers though, Kurt, since you opened up Pandora's box. There are 70,000 homeless people in Los Angeles County. Fair enough?
How many?
Again, and 70,000 in Los Angeles County, give or take.
70,000 homeless, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, the newest thing in 2023, there's 75,000.
Great. I'll run with the 75. Again, if you look at Los Angeles County, we've registered about 3 times that amount of people, hold on, in just the last 24 months. The number of homeless people does not even add up. Okay? Again,
Yeah, this is the homeless population.
well, I can't see that. What does it say?
75,000 for LA County. LA City is 46,000, and this is as of 2023.
Okay. So we can correlate those numbers, but that's all LA County. Okay. Again, LA County has approximately 400,000 new registrations in the last 24 months. That gold bar, Scott, what year does that represent?
That's 2023. This graphic represents, you can see the population growth or decrease, and you can see the red bars here. That's 2020, 2021, and 2022 in the city of LA. That's it.
So,
And so
we're
we lost
going
80,
down.
90,000.
And
Yeah.
by the way, hold on.
Even with the
That's-
increase of homelessness, we still are going down in population for the city of LA.
Now, have some fun, folks. In addition to this fine-looking graph that Scott has dreamed up for us, and by the way, hi Stephanie, if I haven't said that already, that is the population growth. You want to have some more fun, Scott Piotr, Kurt English? You ready?
Go for it.
Ask Grok or AI, which gets it from the U.S. Census, how much is the population increased or decreased by number of legal citizens? It's less than this because the legal citizens. So there's a much bigger gap, is my point, between the number of new registrations and the growth, which is a negative growth in legal citizens. So where are these registrations coming from? We
Logically, either illegal aliens or fake people.
It's mostly illegal aliens, not fake people. Because you can go online and you could put in a driver's license, a social security, and skip the boxes, and you're never verified. And if they come back and they register them again. Scott,
So
maybe
this graphic, you can see the red is the net domestic migration. In other words, citizens. They're all leaving. And blue represents the international non-residents. This is LA County. And so you can see that the trend along the illegal immigrants has stayed pretty constant, but the net domestic, or the net gain, you can see is by that gold line that goes up and down. It's been negative. And this is the latest one is in 2019. And so it's only gotten worse since 2019. But you can see, so that the amount of citizens leaving LA County is huge. And the only reason that that it doesn't show it as worse is because of all the illegal immigration that's countering it. Still negative, but still there's a lot of illegal immigration. So we
you
should be
can go-
losing registered voters, right? We're not gaining citizens. We're gaining illegal aliens, and we're bleeding. We're losing citizens out of LA County.
So I'm trying to find right now for everybody up there. You can go on the Secretary of State website and see that in the last 6 years, where California has not gained people, forget even legal citizens for a second, we've added 3 million people to the voter rolls. And we have not, and because we've done the stats. Now, gentlemen, I want to take a second and explain to you that when we get the voter files, and anybody out there, you could buy the voter files in LA for $145, maybe $146. We buy them from the state of California for $30 every quarter. And you can see, gentlemen, I don't know if you know this or not, you can see how people registered, how they registered. If it was face-to-face or the DMV or online. You know that, right?
Multiple, yes. Motor voter.
I could see the individual and how they voted. Of the 22 million or so registrations, 18 million have come from some form of online. Now, Kurt, when you set up something like Stripe, when you set up something where you want to check your credit card, they do an online verification and make you send them a picture of your ID, don't they?
Not just there, but in lots of instances, try to open a bank account, try to get a credit card, try to get a mortgage. I could list dozens of things. You have to try to buy a gun,
Right.
and they want to know, your firstborn and everything else.
And by the way, Kurt, that's why when I tried to open up a credit card in your name the other day, I got turned down. But I'm working.
I'm glad to hear it, since I've got fraud alerts, Mike. So it worked.
But you know what? Let's use that as a comedic metaphor.
You were saying you probably don't have fraud alerts that are going to alert you if someone else registered in your name.
Here's the thing.
Or if someone else,
said
some
it.
illegal aliens using your social security number, your kid's social security number.
Let's
so that they can
assume,
work.
let's assume I did open a credit card in Kurt's name. This is a good metaphor for what I'm trying to get across. And I go down, I'm going to use the metaphor of the local liquor store, and charge $500 of Jack Daniels. By the time Kurt got the alert, I'm out the door with the Jack Daniels. And yes,
the
indeed,
homeless people on Skid Row are going to love you, Mike.
well, they can. And by the way, Kurt's name is on the screen, so go try it. That's my point about the voter registration. By the time we get this and understand this, because we're not paying attention all the time, we're down the street with the Jack Daniels, known as election certification. Scott, when we talked earlier, you said I'm being too complicated. Am I being simple enough on this?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
Those are the
People
two
have to
options,
realize-
Scott.
yes, you're being clear when it comes to the fact that voters, they're manufacturing voters that we don't know who they are, if they exist, or whether they're legitimate citizens or not. But I don't think you've done a very good job yet of explaining how they cheat with that.
It's actually, good point, pretty simple. You can go online and put in the name, any name that you want. Now, let's pretend you put in a real name and you happen to be a
This
legal-
is when you're registering to vote on the LA County website.
No. Secretary of State website.
Oh, okay.
You register to vote on the Secretary of State website. Anybody can do this, and you key it in, and you have to grab a real individual. And that real individual is going to ask for an ID or a social security number, and you can put something in for the real individual. It doesn't mean that they're not a real individual. What we don't know, and this is where the growth comes from.
So wait a minute. So if somebody, let's say somebody comes up with a social security number that is of a legitimate person, they can register using that social security number. In fact,
Yeah.
1,000 of your closest friends can all register with that social security number.
It's separate. It's separate. But you just let's go with the role that they're smarter than that. It's not like you think. So I'm going to find a guy to be politically correct. I'm going to call him Mohammed. Hi,
Sounds
man.
good.
Make sure to rebroadcast this show tonight.
Welcome, Magdalena.
It is the most common name in the world today. So
I
Muhammad, tell us
find
about
a
Muhammad.
guy, and his name's Muhammad Abdul. And I go to Muhammad and I go, Muhammad Abdul, do you have a driver's license? He goes, oh, yes, I do. And that, or I have a California ID because I'm allowed to get one. I said, thank you very much. I now want you to go to the Secretary of State website and register to vote. Now, Mohammed goes to the Secretary of State website. And by the way, it could be a Swedish person who's not a citizen. And you go to the website. And when you go on the website, ask for your name, ask for your address. Forget the wrong address portion of it. That's a small number of people. I actually think that the Democrats tell us about the poor party, so we pay attention to it. Stay with me. Then once you go on the website, it then says, are you a citizen of the United States? And you check yes. And then it says, put in, so we can check, it doesn't say that, but the city and state where you're born. You can leave those blank and finish your registration. It has been that way for years. Now, when you do,
Mike, let's talk about that very important point you just made. For anyone watching that knows anything about online records, database management, it is fundamental that you can specify whether a field can be ignored or whether a field is
that's
required.
exactly my point. Okay, that's exact. Those fields, a simple fix would be to make them mandatory. They do not. Now, hold on. Let's go back to Orange County.
Because they don't want to know.
Really? Hold on. Let's go to Orange County, Scott. All right? Now,
All right.
What you see in the background behind me.
No, hold on. The reason I'm
County,
doing
yes.
this as an example. So I'm going to go into Orange County and I'm going to find Mohammed's brother, Abdul. And Abdul has made a lot of money, but he's not a citizen.
Abdul, that's the guy. Yeah.
Abdul. And we have Abdul register, I'm going to say 60 days before the election. Now, Scott's going to tell me that Orange County mails Abdul a card to cure that because Abdul didn't fill in those boxes. LA County does not, but let's pretend Orange County does. You ready, Scott?
Yep. Orange County sends you fill out your registration online, then they mail you the registration for you to wet sign and send back.
Meantime, aren't you? And you're going to get a ballot.
I'm not sure. I didn't try that.
Okay, it does. It works because it says you are registered as soon as you finish the online form. Because remember, we have same-day registration, provincial ballots.
Hey, Orange County is the one that actually had the liberal lady that registered her dog to vote, and then she voted for her dog.
And the most disappointing part that Scott is not bringing up is that dog did not vote for Scott when he ran for state assembly. I found that rather disappointing, Scott.
And he was in my district. I'm very disappointed.
You should at least get the
So this is a sample ballot on the screen where the guy made his mark. It's a smiley face. And then you had a witness signature. So if you have a witness signature, then it does not matter what your signature looks like, in this case, a smiley face,
So there's
because
no
it's been
way to
witnessed.
check the signature.
But
Correct.
yeah, can you identify the witness from this scribble of a signature? No. So the same person who got the 26 ballots mailed to her apartment sits there and fills out the ballots, puts a little X marks the spot in the voter's signature box, and then signs it as witness, and all of a sudden it's legit. They can't do anything about it. In other words, they've designed the rules so that things that like this that we would consider fraud are legal, and they have to count it because they made the rules. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what
Yeah,
my
I can't
pilot
wait.
used to say.
Yeah, I can't wait for the U.S. Supreme Court decision to come down that basically won't or will discontinue this practice of California and other states that, hey, as long as your ballot's postmarked by election day and we receive it via the mail at least no more than 7 days later, we will count it. And so what
Scott, there's some
happens is
good news on this front. There is a rumor that Justice Alito is writing that opinion, and it will say that election day is election day, and that none of
right.
those votes count.
The Constitution doesn't say election week or election month; it says election day. And part of what that'll mean in California is that the Democrats can't wait till election night, find out how many votes they have to cheat by, and then stuff the ballot boxes after the fact that they do now, allegedly, obviously, but allegedly, and they'll have to come up with a number prior to close of polls on election night and get all of those ballots into a ballot box or an ballot collection box or whatever. So they'll have to cheat earlier, and they won't be able to guess as accurately. And so they'll have to overfill the ballot box, in order to make sure that they win. And so maybe their fraud will become more obvious than things like what happened with Spencer Pratt, where 20,000 votes get counted and they get split between Karen Bass and Ramen Noodle, and he gets absolutely zero of those votes. Oh yeah, that's statistically normal. It happens all the time.
Never.
Exactly. So yeah, it'll be harder for them to guess how much they have to cheat by, so they're going to have to cheat by more. So hopefully their election fraud will be even more obvious than that.
Well, just a couple more examples of fraud.
Yeah, bring up some
There
more
was a
stories here. I'm looking
126-year-old
something up.
woman who was registered to vote and allegedly voted 51 times. Didn't know about it because obviously she wasn't 126. And then this Nithya Raman did finish third in her own council district. Clearly, the voters in that council district would be more likely to know her than the voters on Skid Row who are drugs and probably don't even know who she is.
Right. But instead, what did they find?
The voters on Skid Row voted for Raman a lot more than the voters in her council district on
So big surprise.
Day.
Big surge on Skid Row registered voters, and they all voted for Ramen Noodle. Hello? What's wrong with this picture? Where there's smoke, you think you would look for fire. But, oh, wait a minute. The Democrats made it legal to do that. So there's nothing to see here.
Los Angeles County, since 2022, on the Secretary of State website, hiding in plain sight. Scott, I want to send you this page right now. Okay. Well, guess what? The Democrats are interfering with you.
So I can put it up on the screen, you mean?
Yes. And I'm not trying to turn this to a seminar, everybody, but you really got to go to plain sight here. Okay? Now, let's take a look. Look at Los Angeles. Registrations are done by county, not by city. Okay? Scott, when you put it up, if you could scroll down and focus for me on Los Angeles County.
All right, let me pull it up here. So you want which one of these pages?
Okay, where it says county registration, increase in registration. Do you see that?
I'm looking. Hold on. County registration highlights. Increase in registration. Yeah.
Since 2022. Fair enough. 4 years, 3 election cycles. Okay. Now, for everybody out there, this is not people that moved. These are an increase in registration. New voters, counselor, witness, whatever the hell you are. Would you read for me what the increase in registration is in Los Angeles County since 2022 per the Secretary of State's website?
Scott
see
has
it?
it up. What does it say,
I know he
Scott?
So increase for LA County, 194,000 and change.
194,798. Now, this may be a really stupid question, but Scott, Kurt, whatever one two you are, let's talk about statistically. Here's a county which is shrinking, and it's shrinking even more in the number of legal citizens. You can Google it. Everyone out there, ask the question of Google, what is the change in population of legal citizens in Los Angeles County since 2022? And lo and behold, you're going to find it has not increased. Yet there's been 194,798 as of this 60-day report that have gone up. Now, here's what's fascinating to me. Riverside.
Well, and Mike, there's another point that makes it even worse. Now, if you go to the DMV, they want to register you when you get a driver's license
That's
to try
my
to
point,
register
is
everyone.
how they're doing it, dude. But just take a look at these blatant figures.
But Mike, what that means is they can't justify it by saying there were unregistered voters that we registered, because there aren't any unregistered voters.
They show potential for it, but here's my point. We have no detail. And here's a really weird fact for you. Kurt, you're pretty bright. I want you to take 194,000. Let's take 200,000. I would like you to multiply that by 30%.
That would be 60,000. 200 times 30% would be 60,000.
Correct. That is about the turnout in Los Angeles for this election. That happens to be 60,000, doesn't it? Right?
Well, of the increase in registration, if you were to
no, I took 30% of that 194 that probably turned out for this election. You guys still with me?
Yep, little under 60,000.
Mm.
Like about 58.
How many votes did Spencer Pratt lose by?
10,000 so far.
40,000, I thought it was.
Well, you're right.
I thought it was in the single-digit thousands.
Okay. No, it's 40,000, not percentage. Quit talking number of votes.
Number of votes. He's 30,000 behind.
Right. Which happens to be, I'm going to say, in a mathematical range of, if we take, and by the way, LA turns out at about 20%. So it doesn't take much to back into the figure that he lost by about the number of votes. Hi, Linda. And Pavement. Yes, that's exactly I'm making. It's there in plain sight.
Now, Mike, you said something that I want to emphasize. Did you say only 20% of people vote as far as turnout?
Los Angeles, look, I don't want to go into an election show here. We only had about a 30% turnout this time. With the undervote, it comes out to, I can guarantee you, about 20% of that figure voted. And by the way, those new registrations we have to look at, but wait, there's more. It will show you, and you can Google. And again, these are spitting range ones, but why don't we get to see the detail? In the unverified ballot report, which is the one, Scott, to your point, that they take the time to count. Scott, I'm going to stop so you can tell me. No one understands what I'm talking about.
Go.
Okay. In the unverified ballot report, you will find that we start to get to the 3 million mark and start to count down. Why is that number important? The number of new registrations annually happens to be about 3 million on the Secretary of State website. We've increased in the last 6 years, let's say, about 3 million voters. That's new registrations, not subbing, for people, okay, that always tumbles right towards the number they have left to count. The rigging is not taking place when they're counting. Sorry, conspiracy theorists. It takes place on what they're counting. Where do they get their list from of the ballots that they need to harvest? They get it from the same place I do, which are the voter stats, which you can buy. You see date registered if you were allegedly born in the country, if it's put there. And I can see all kinds of data. And even with 22 million records, I can easily sort and I can see if you voted or didn't vote, or what last election that you voted in, not how you voted. And I can easily make a list of ballots I need to go get. And that's how the left is doing it. But they would not have ballots to harvest. They would not have ballots to mail in. They would not, if we verified the registration. And Kurt, I'm going to ask you real blatantly. I put it out in Netter News today, the article from somebody wrote in the Post. It might have been Fleischman or somebody. I put out probably 2 articles on it. Can anybody explain to me why Rob Bonta, and let's repeat his number. Let's call 1-800, is it?
Yep.
Read that number to me. Put up on
1-800 952 5225. 952 5225.
Call that right now or tomorrow and ask him to turn the voter records. It's not Shirley Weber, guys. It's Rob Bonta, the Attorney General, the lying lapdog, and I'll get to that in 1 second, who won't turn over those records to the Department of Justice so they can verify the voters are legit. I started off the show with a comical rant. Forget the helicopters, forget the trucks, forget the rest of it. The question is, are the ballots they carry legit voters? Are the ballots they're signing on Skid Row with a happy face at a porta potty? Is that a legit voter? Bonta has said to the press, who unfortunately, I'm not trying to insult my friends at the press and my enemies at the press, I might. You repeat what Bonta says, well, you have to show an identification. I was on a show today and they said, well, you could show any ID. You could show a student ID, utility bill. And I had to correct them. This is a very smart conservative host. I'm doing that so I get invited back. And
what was his name?
Real America Voice, Eric Bowling. But I had to correct him. You do not have to show any ID to register to vote. I can see the date you've registered. And by the way, there's a 15-day report. You could register after the 15-day report. You're not even in these numbers. We have to verify our registrations. For everyone out there, that is the only thing about election fraud that I want you to repeat and call Bonta's number over and over and ask them to release those records to the Department of Justice so they can verify that these are citizens and people that belong. And by the way, forget the dead people or mortally challenged, as Newsom calls them. Yes, they need to be eliminated too. But there's not that many of them. We found a dead person or mortally challenged. We find him every election. The reality is, not enough of them. It's what you don't see. Forget the helicopters, forget the trucks, forget the posts that you see. Gentlemen, and Kurt and Scott, gentlemen, all the other people watching, okay? Many of these stories, in my opinion, are put out by the left because we immediately start chasing them. I don't give a rodent's posterior about the damn happy face. You want to sign with an X, which you're allowed to by law, or a happy face, or a picture of the dog, which didn't vote for Scott, go for it. If your vote is legit, go ahead and count it. I don't give a rodent's posterior about signature verification. I don't care about the upcoming Hummers with Newsom's face on the side of them. That's a joke. That will be delivering ballots. What I care about is that the registered voters are legit. Look at the stats yourself and take a deep breath and say, how is that statistically possible that we've had a decline in population in California of legal citizens, yet our voter registration has gone up and we have not verified them? I'm going to toss it back to you two guys for a second here. Somebody explain that to me.
Well, Mike and Scott, if our listeners and viewers call Bonta's office, and if and when, probably more like when, he turns over the voter rolls to the DOJ, it is very straightforward and easy with modern database and computer technology to run those checks. And it will be valuable, and it will yield.
Yeah, it's not quite as easy as you think it is, Kurt. Let me explain. Because the cross-referencing against those records isn't as easy as people make it sound because of the way that it is available. But here's the thing. It is too late. And the reason I'm actually going to talk about this every show. It is too late for this election because once we pass the 30-day period and an election is certified, there is nothing anybody can do about it. I am going to repeat that again. For all of you great friends of mine, we're getting together money for a lawsuit. You cannot. Look, we still would be debating whether JFK was a legit president, whether Lincoln should have been elected. We don't live in a banana republic. An election has to be certified after.
Wait a minute. Who says we don't live in a banana republic? Our voting system is like one.
It's
worse
like
than one.
But remember, we quote Stalin so often, it's who counts the votes. I want to change that. It's who registers the voters. It's who registers the voters.
Right, because they cast their illegal votes and then they do a recount to verify it. And yep, those same illegal votes are still cast that way. Must be a good election. Nobody ever looks at, hey, did a legitimate voter actually cast that vote? Which is what voter ID would fix.
1-800-252. No, 952.
952. Ask his office. I want his office on barter with calls saying release the records from our government to our federal government so they can be verified. And I want this done. Don't forget about this. I want this done for Scott. Do me a favor when you get a chance and text me that number because I'm going to put it up on my X feed. I want this done to save the November election. Let's be clear. I am very happy I made it to the finals. It's a friggin' test run. I'm unhappy with my Padres because they've never won the World Series. Don't go into it.
And will not this year.
All right, hold on.
Are you telling me that you're not going to win in November? You're going to be like a Padre?
I'm going to tell you that to win in November, if in a baseball game they put 16 people on the field and I can't see the majority of those people above the 9, if they go on a football field and they have more than 11 people and we can't see them, we are going to probably lose that game. And that's exactly, I can't think of a more succinct way to tell you it lies in the registrations. We put out videos on it, we talk about it, we rant and rave on it, and then everybody forgets about it because we go on to other things.
So if you were Spencer Pratt's campaign, would you file a lawsuit against the fact that there were votes cast by illegitimate voters?
No, he can't.
Why not?
Because he can't, because by the time, this is the part where they're smarter than we are. What they, and Spencer, and this isn't Spencer Pratt or all the candidates by definition are new. You have to, the DOJ's been trying to file this lawsuit because by the time you file the lawsuit, and no one's going to give you emergency stay against an election. We discovered.
I was going to say that would be your only hope, right? Is that a judge would not allow them to certify the election.
We don't want the courts doing that because the will of a lot of people who maybe they didn't vote with us. There's a lot of legit voters that has to be filed, okay, prior to the election because by the time it weaved its way through the courts, the election is certified.
Well,
I've
got to believe that I've got to believe that a common sense judge, which would mean one that was appointed by a Republican, if you brought him enough evidence that non-voters voted, that he would say, "Hey, there's enough question here. I'm going to forbid the state of California from certifying the election."
But here's the catch-22, my good friend. What office does Spencer Pratt run for?
City mayor's office.
What does that fall under? The state of California. That does not go to federal court. Sorry, Kurt. You could say it does, but it doesn't.
Here's why I disagree. Those Los Angeles voters voted for congressional candidates.
No, that's a different lawsuit, though. A congressional candidate would have to sue for the federal one. We talked about Spencer Pratt. And in fact, many of the things Trump does, that we had Michael Gates on the show long before he ran, apply only to federal offices. Let me give you a great example.
I still think he'd be able to take it to federal court under a civil rights case.
You'd be able to get there eventually, but by the time you do, we'd be on the third term of Bass, which they figured out.
Yeah, the judicial system.
I've got another idea. Hold
on. Let me finish my thoughts so everybody understands.
What if Speaker Mike Johnson said, "There's fraud in California. We won't seat the California delegation if there's fraud. So you better fix it." The House of Representatives decides who it seats solely.
I understand that.
It won't affect Spencer Pratt's election, but you could argue that it could affect some of the other.
Let me explain
the way they stack the deck. There'd be 40 Democrat congressmen don't get seated.
Kurt, forget it. Sorry, brother. Not to go down these rabbit holes. Let me put it very simply to you.
By the way, talking about rabbit holes, I've got a picture on the screen, Cal Fire helicopter, because I think that if Newsom was going to sneak extra ballots into the registrar, he would sit there and use this helicopter so that they could show the electorate that he's getting Cal Fire into shape to be ready for fire season.
Since it wasn't used on fires, it's probably available.
It had low hours and it was readily available.
And I want to stay on this subject because this is.
And they could do drops of the ballots, just like they're supposed to do that with water.
All facetiousness aside, I'm running for State Senate of California because I give a damn about California. Now, hold on. We need to save California elections. We live in a system of a republic where the federal government has certain authority over federal offices. They do not have authority over within limits. And I don't want to get that argument with you, Kurt, because there are limits to things they have to do. But City of San Francisco can authorize non-citizens to vote in local elections. They have not done so, and that is not done statewide. So non-citizens are voting for state and local offices. It's illegal. period, end of sentence. If you do not vote in a state election per our current code, you are supposed to be taken off the rolls. We don't do that. And any of us can see that voter by voter, because you could buy the rolls and look at that yourself. And again, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, County of Los Angeles, or City of LA, I believe it was the County of Los Angeles, was sued to take something like 874,000 voters off the rolls by Judicial Watch. They were taken off the rolls, but that lawsuit had a flaw in it. Kurt, as a lawyer, you know what that flaw was?
You're going to tell us. I don't remember the case, but
the case was they went there and said these people should be taken off the rolls. They haven't voted. The judge finally agreed after a couple years. I know the people did.
If they haven't voted in 2 years, they're supposed to take them off the rolls.
It's right in the law. You're not in there, vote for a state office, 2 years, off the rolls. Federal office, for a federal office, off the rolls.
So in LA, before this latest batch of 200,000 that they added illegally to the rolls, they had 120% of the registered, or I should say, the eligible residents of the city to be able, or on the voter roll. So in other words, let's say you take everybody that's eligible to vote, over 18 years old, and has a pulse, and you scratch out the illegals, and that number, which of course you never get that whole number. Rarely do never are you going to get 100% participation of everybody who's eligible to vote to actually be registered to vote. That number ends up being more like 60%. So here we are, 60% of the registered voters, or eligible registered voters, are actually registered to vote. And in LA County, you have 120%. So
okay,
you have,
but here's the point I cannot stress enough, and I've been going over this. Many of them are registered to vote, but never actually cast a vote. Okay, so if you want to challenge it after even an election, and you found you're going to find many of them didn't vote, we have to get them off the rolls. And leading back to my point, what we didn't have in that lawsuit, and they ended up taking like 1 million people off the rolls, and the rolls grew right back again, because we didn't have the cure in that, as you guys say in law, to permanently stop it from happening again. Because unfortunately, many of the lawyers, fine human beings who sued for us, Judicial Watch, God bless them, don't understand the nitty-gritty of what I just described simplistically, of what needs to be fixed in the system, so we get them off the rolls, keep them off the rolls, and keep them from coming back on the rolls. Today,
so, obviously, the SAFE Act that's before the Senate, that John Thune and everybody's delaying, one of the things that it requires, at least in federal races, is that you have to show voter ID. And voter ID, even if you've got a bad voter roll, at least you've got somebody standing in front of you with a warm pulse, with a government-issued ID that says you are a citizen. That is, of course, unless they issue.
And that is for federal races. But your takeaway, as believe it or not, I can't believe we run to 7:30, is tell Rob Bonta's office at 1-800-952-5225. It is toll free. All of you have that kind of money. 1-800-952-5225 to release the voter rolls. They won't hang up on you. They can't. This is what we need to publicly pressure. Rob Bonta lies when he says you need ID to register. You do not.
All right, Mike, if someone was to call right now
Rob
after
Bonta
hours,
lied.
hold on, Scott. If someone was to call right now after hours, could they leave a message?
Yes, they can.
That's even better. You don't have to talk to anybody.
In fact, I suspect that this line is a message-only line, and it's probably rarely, if ever, staffed.
Hold on, before we leave this show.
But it is their legitimate contact line that's on their website.
1-800-952-5225. Hold, please.
Right. Gonna try and see.
Try it now.
See what happens.
Let's have a party.
Welcome to California Attorney General Rob Bonta's Public Inquiry Unit.
For English, press 1. Para español, favor de oprimir el... We're
You
sorry.
should not.
Your call center is closed and you will not be able to speak with an analyst at this time. Please continue to proceed through this information system, as the answers to a majority of the questions asked of our office may be found here. Thank you.
So you're going to have to call during live hours, work your way through. We're going to try it in the morning, okay? In the meantime, look, we need to call. We need to put the pressure on Rob Bonta to release the record. It is our right to know in California elections that the people who are voting are legit. And it's Rob Bonta's job to keep his eye on Shirley Weber, all puns intended. And that is up to us to make sure that we do. There's an email. You can email after hours. You could do whatever you need to do. But it's time we, the people of California, stood up and said something about it. Gentlemen, hit me with some last words. I can't believe we've eaten up the entire hour on this.
Scott, it would be interesting to put up that little photo of the before and after. On Thursday, there was a Los Angeles voter location that had no one in it processing votes. And then that day, the Trump administration announced that they were going to start investigating. And the next day, there were people there.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
How
It's like,
convenient.
hey, how do they count votes when the place is freaking empty?
Don't need to count them if you're in the Stalin plan.
If you already have and know what the outcome is, why bother wasting all that energy to count votes?
Yeah, counting votes is so time consuming, Scott.
I hate it when that happens. Well, one of the bright spots out of this is that there's so much heat in the LA mayor's race where they stole the election from Spencer that they decided it wasn't worth trying to cheat on the Hilton race, and Steve Hilton will be squaring off against Becerra, the liar, the cheater, and the thief called Xavier Becerra in November. So we have an opportunity as voters to say F you on Spencer Pratt, because we can cause Hilton to win, and what a difference that would make in this entire state. He would have an opportunity to clean up the election rolls and do all sorts of other things where we would not have that opportunity if we get Becerra, who is frankly not as smart as Newsom and more of a liberal ideologue than Newsom. It's hard to imagine anybody to the left of Newsom, but Newsom has some practicality because he's looking at higher office, and Becerra doesn't. Becerra is just a liberal ideologue, and he will not be a leader. He will go with the liberal flow wherever that goes. He would be awful for California, but he will be good for the U-Haul business.
But Scott and Mike, very important that Hilton made the top two. That's going to bring more Republicans out to vote in November who can vote for voter ID initiative, for the Save Prop 13 initiative. So that was very helpful.
Agreed. I think that the look at that.
The Supreme Court.
Yeah, the Supreme Court has an opportunity to do, like I said, the Mississippi case, all it talks about is whether or not they're going to allow ballots to be accepted after the polls close on election day. And if they decide in our favor, which the oral arguments, everybody has already realized and indicated that the likelihood, based on the reception of the photographs, or the questioning that happened that day, everybody expects SCOTUS to rule in that fashion. And like I said, that would just move up the Democrats. They'd have to cheat by guesstimating what they're going to need as far as votes to cheat. They won't be able to wait till election night is over and then put in the bogus votes. They'll have to put the bogus votes in earlier.
Well, guys, there's another important Supreme Court decision that is pending, and that's the birthright citizenship case. And if they rule that properly the 14th Amendment gave freed slaves born in the United States the right to vote and be citizens, then but not birth tourism and illegal aliens dropping a baby here to make that baby a citizen, that will be huge.
No, I agree. I mean, the Chinese have had for a long time. By the way, this is the picture on the screen you were talking about with an empty register of voters in LA County on Thursday, and then the following Friday, after the announcement that the DOJ was going to be there.
Donald Trump is already having a positive effect on California, Scott.
Absolutely, it has to be that way. And this is, I thought Babylon Bee did a really good job on this one. Just, hey, LA officials warn it may take several weeks to tally up the goals from the World Cup matches. I don't know how hard it can be to tally up a score that's 0-0 or 0-1. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting into a boring soccer game. I find.
By the way, Scott, remember that soccer is for people who are not good at baseball and can't play baseball.
Right. They don't have good eye-hand coordination. They're lucky they can run and walk and kick at the same time. But
but think about it. Soccer is the dumbest sport on earth. Take the most important physical feature of a human being, the opposing thumb, and you disable it for the game. So, but I can think of equally dumb games, like if you tied one arm behind your back and played basketball, or if you tied your ankles together and tried to play football. No dumber than soccer.
Hey, when I was growing up and my mother said, "Hey, use your head," I didn't realize she was saying, "Go play soccer."
Yeah, they get a lot of concussions from that, so they're not letting the kids do headers anymore.
Rightfully so. We got a bunch of brain dead people that, hey, maybe that explains why Abdul is not the sharpest tool in the shed there.
Indeed, because soccer is a foreign sport. Well, Scott, I think we should wrap it up. We want to thank everybody for coming in and participating in the show this week. We'll see you next Thursday at 6:30 California time for California Free Radio.
And hey, this voter saga hasn't ended. It'll still be going on. We'll probably have a ton more examples of what's going on. And in the meantime, call Attorney General Rob Bonta, use the 800-952-5225 number, and tell him that he needs to release the voter rolls to the Department of Justice. Bombard those guys.
It's up to you. It's up to you to take our state back. Remember, this is not something you can pick up when November comes around after the election and 2 years again after that. It is up to us to stay on it, to basically cut this off at the roots, to ensure California elections are legitimate so we can go to victory and take back our damn state.
Now, Mike, before we go, tell people how they can donate to your campaign.
Go to netter.vote. Pretty simple. Netter.vote. For those of you going, that's dot the punctuation. Don't spell out the word DOT. Netter.vote. Contribute to my campaign. I can use the money for voter contact. I'm running this on fumes. And again, I'm doing this because I give a damn. And I ask that you care too. I can use a little bit of your money to buy a lot of your freedom and help you stay in the sunshine. Thank you.
And I can't wait to see all the AI commercials that are going to be out there for November. They've got to be hysterical. Spencer Pratt has shown us the path. So, all right, everybody, we'll see you next week.
They said trust the experts while they locked up the town. Gave us 12 more genders. Took our paychecks down. Flag on the porch. They call you extreme while they cash big checks and scream on your screen. Tear up the script like it's 1776. Hey, hey. They're allergic to bricks and sticks. All bark, blue check, big talk, no grit. We the ones they can't censor or fix. Oh, sing it loud, that's the trick. Red, white, and really annoying.